Hello, YouTube world. How are you? How are you out there, veterans, VA employees? How are you doing? The first month of 2026 has nearly come to a close. How's those New Year's resolutions? Did you partake in any? Did you make any resolutions for yourself? Are you on track? Maybe you fell off and you're jumping back on. How are you doing? How are you doing? As always, I'm a friendly VA-accredited attorney, Matthew my resolutions are they're a little slow going personally, but I mean, things take work. Things take time. So I'd say they're doing good. I'd say business is doing good in the idea of being here to help veterans. I sit down with veterans and realize I'm to a point now for this year where we're taking on cases that maybe many wouldn't take on. Maybe many don't have the time to handle because of the way they are. So I would say our resolutions here business-wise are doing really good for veterans. So I look forward to doing more for you veterans and even trying to help you win your cases. But in the meantime, let's talk about some VA disability from an educational format. And I would like to start off going like, all right, somebody explain this to me. And you might go, well, aren't you supposed to do that for us? Yeah, you're right. So VA, I'll ask you, and not to beat you up, because remember, this is supposed to be educational for both sides, because I want both sides to understand the different points of view and the different looks on things as well, and the rules and the laws that come with this whole process in order to, again, make it smoother. So VA, maybe I'll ask you, can you explain to me why the VA benefit system is legally supposed to be non-adversarial, but we feel like we're walking into an adversarial courtroom where the evidence perhaps disappears, where the rules change mid-game, or the judge seems to work for the other team? It does seem like more veterans are struggling with their claims in the idea that the system is making itself more adversarial than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be non-adversarial. So I'm just kind of asking, VA, if you don't mind, just nothing against you. I was there. I just kind of want to see your thoughts, if you're willing to share them, on why does the program, or why does the agency feel so adversarial to veterans? I mean, not to every veteran. I see the bad and the ugly of the VA. So I do see a lot of adversarial. So that's where I'm going to start off with this topic here. So when we think of non-adversarial veterans and VA, this is what it's supposed to mean. And I'll try to translate in plain English for you. Non-adversarial ultimately means the VA is not supposed to act like your opponent, veterans. This isn't two teams going head-to-head in a sporting event to see who wins the big championship game. They're not supposed to be your opponent. This isn't supposed to be veteran versus government. It's supposed to be benefits. It's supposed to be a benefits system where the VA helps develop the claim and makes a fair decision. I mean, we didn't see it through the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, where they've described VA proceedings as informal and non-adversarial. Our highest court in the land has said this is supposed to be non-adversarial. That's the design. They've even emphasized that the VA assists veterans in developing evidence and must apply veteran-friendly rules. But we don't really feel that way, I think, when we get to the bad and the ugly of it all. It doesn't feel that all the development is being done right. It doesn't feel very veteran-friendly a lot of times. Just making note off of my own observations from experience and here working within the VA and working without it, outside the walls of it, representing veterans. We even find the Federal Circuit has recognized Congress designed a beneficial, non-adversarial veterans benefit system. It's all written in the laws to be non-adversarial. So on paper, non-adversarial is supposed to be a system that is set up to help you veterans. It's supposed to help you. That's what non-adversarial is supposed to mean. So what are three big pro-veteran features that come from this non-adversarial setup? I would say when I talk about non-adversarial, I would mean these three things here. One, there's a duty to assist. That's not something you're going to get if you're trying a case in a courtroom, because, well, that's not a non-adversarial setup. That's adversarial, right? So one thing that's supposed to make the VA non-adversarial is this duty to assist. The VA has an actual legal duty to help obtain evidence needed to substantiate your claims, veterans. Just like federal records or even when necessary medical exams. And I know we're back here arguing times when the records aren't obtained or exams aren't properly done or exams are never requested when they're supposed to. It gives it an adversarial feel. But it's not supposed to. There's supposed to be that duty to assist, and that's supposed to help make it non-adversarial. We also find the benefit of the doubt rule in the laws that help to make this a non-adversarial system. When the evidence is roughly equal, the tie is supposed to go to you, veterans. That's the reasonable doubt rule. So that doesn't mean that you win with no evidence. Sure, there's still some stuff to prove. You still have a few elements to prove. But what it does mean is the evidence hits equipoise, 50-50, and the VA is supposed to grant the benefit. So the tie goes to you, veterans. And I would say the third thing that makes us supposed to make this a non-adversarial setup is a sympathetic reading. The VA is supposed to read your filings, veterans. They're supposed to read them in a sympathetic way and identify reasonably raised issues. We see this missed quite often, unfortunately. And this stands true for all veterans, but I would say VA, especially for unrepresented veterans, because they may not realize that there's a reasonably raised claim in there they didn't identify. So it's where the non-adversarial part comes in. The laws and the rules say this is where you're supposed to help pick it up and have this sympathetic reading, and the courts have said it multiple times. I think the last time I was in a hearing with for a veteran here, I had to really reiterate the sympathetic and the reasonably raised issues part here of the whole non-adversarial program. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I recall saying I had 80 court cases from CAVIC in front of me that said that this is supposed to be done. So you just know, sympathetic reading is part of the non-adversarial program of the VA. So even though I say this and we got all these rules in place, veterans, you're probably sitting back going, well, then why does it still feel adversarial in real life? Well, let me take you to the reality of it, veterans, just from some experience here. The non-adversarial is just a legal design. It's the idea that laws are in place and rules are set to say, this is what's supposed to be done. We're not supposed to be a got you moment, you're denied, I win because I denied you or figured out how to deny you. This isn't supposed to be, we're not going to get you any records. This is supposed to be help find records, help obtain exams if necessary, help understand the claim and read it sympathetically, because the veteran may not be understanding something in a file that's right there in front of them. That's the legal design. Help the veteran out. VA, help the veteran out. But the problem is that's not always daily behavior. We see laws all the time in place and daily behavior not match the laws or the rules or regulations even perhaps. So that is, I would say, the reality of it, veterans. It's the daily behavior. We don't have control over the daily behavior of every individual that decides a claim or works on a claim or an appeal. The daily behavior could create the adversarial setup, unfortunately. And I think what it comes down to is the idea that VA is that you send out things that look like, you prove it, good luck. I've definitely felt that way when I've read a few of your decisions and went, wait, that's not the burden. The burden doesn't rely on the veteran. In that case, right? So sometimes we feel like the VA acts like it's the veteran's job to deliver a perfectly wrapped claim. There's no requirement for that. I mean, I imagine veterans, if you could, you would, and some probably do. But the law says VA must take reasonable efforts to help develop the evidence. That's what makes it non-adversarial. So I think, again, it's that behavior of going, well, they didn't provide me any evidence of a diagnosis, so denied. Veteran, you must provide me that. I've actually seen it written where you didn't provide me a nexus letter or a medical opinion. Yeah. Well, that's not required underneath the non-adversarial. That's, again, that duty to assist part. Sometimes we see it listed like this, too, where it looks like something where it says, we listed your evidence and we just didn't discuss it. I see that actually way more than I like to. Usually what we see is a decision that reads like a template. Oh, and don't worry, VA, by the way, I know what they look like. I was in your shoes. So it's very disappointing to still see. But I'll give you a little chance at this to understand what I'm talking about more. When you just list all the evidence in the file, and you don't talk about any of that evidence you list, or you list evidence in your evidence list and you don't talk about any of it outside of even a conclusionary statement, it looks like a template. It looks like you didn't even grapple with the favorable evidence. It doesn't even explain why you rejected it. So veterans are probably going to see this, and I know I see it, as VA's not even trying to decide this case. They're not looking at any evidence. They're just looking out for themselves. Perhaps the mindset could even be, got my production points, got my payday, I'm out. So, yeah, see how that sounded very adversarial right there? So it's just something we see back here, and I think that's the issue, is that, again, that behavior behind it all. Even though the law says non-adversarial, I think we see the behavior of it all. I gotta get those production points, so I'm just gonna list everything in my evidence list, and I'm just gonna put in much can text, and I'm gonna move the file. And we're good. No, it's non-adversarial VA. All right. Sometimes I think we even see it this way too, veterans, just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking at back here. And if you want to share in the comments on any of this too, just kind of politely and professionally. I don't want to get into any major arguments well, arguments are fine, but yeah, I hope you get what I mean. I don't want to be this pointing fingers and who does everything wrong and you suck kind of thing. This is supposed to be educational and helpful for everybody. So maybe some of these examples, if you're filling some of these veterans, would be helpful for VA to understand and see, maybe other veterans as well. So that's why I kind of offer that. But this one here, I see it feels like a VA exam boss fight. A non-adversarial system should not turn into a rushed exam. I mean, the veteran's in there trying to provide information, go through an exam so that it can be better understood for their claim. And I hear so many times on so many veterans that I help, and it's really very frustrating on how adversarial the system does feel, because I hear all the time, well, I was in there for like 5 minutes and they just rushed me out. I don't even think they really examined anything, or they didn't want to hear what I had to say. We'll even see it where the examiner puts down inaccurate history just to give a negative opinion. They say they reviewed the file, but then they clearly got the facts wrong that were in the file. And we even see where the opinions are based on no documentation. Oh, there's no documentation. That one's always kind of weirded me out, I guess, because there's not going to be documentation for everything. We just don't document everything. I like to contribute it to the idea that if I got a migraine or a headache, I'm not going to immediately run to my doctor. I'm going to probably go get some pain pills and lay down for a little bit, or do whatever I need to, hide in a dark room, whatever it may be. That's not going to be documented. So it's just feels like a VA exam boss fight. I got you, you're lying to me kind of feel. This is adversarial now. And it's not supposed to. So I think that sometimes we see this on, again, the behavior of whoever that examiner is, their mindset perhaps. And I think even they misunderstand the idea of the non-adversarial piece of it all. And I'm not saying every examiner is that way. There's still a lot of good examiners out there. VA, I'm not saying all of you are that way either. I mean, there's a lot of good people I know inside the VA and that I've worked with. So just keep in mind, these are some of the very subtle things, I would say, that makes the system feel very adversarial, because of just the behaviors and the actions of individuals in the claims process. And that's really the reality of it. That's why I would say, from my experience and my professional opinion, why we have a system that feels very adversarial instead of non-adversarial. Now, veterans, you can probably take this whole non-adversarial process and make it work in your advantage, though. I mean, you could provide maybe a little bit more information when you file your claims. And I've mentioned it before, kind of paint a bigger picture. Don't just write, like, say, for something for your back or something and just write, oh, my back is messed up. You know, kind of explain that a little bit more. What happened? When it starts, kind of go in those details. Put it down in a personal statement if need be. These are just recommendations. Now, the facts of your case may not require that, but just kind of keep an idea. You can use the non-adversarial piece to your advantage in hopes that that person doesn't use their behavior in the adversarial way and that they understand the non-adversarial as well. Same with the examiners, I suppose. If you do have records, some veterans, for some reason, have their STRs, their service treatment records. So get a copy of them and send them in, help them out. Maybe if you know you were treated during service, so you can say about when you got treated, and when the VA gets those records, they can find that information quicker. So there's definitely ways you can use the non-adversarial to your advantage. I think that's one thing that we got to remember is being in a non-adversarial situation, even though my title is attorney, I'm not going to sit here, VA, with you and argue and object and act like we're in a courtroom. That's not the way the system's supposed to work for VA benefits. I'm here to help the veteran and you come to an agreement as to, well, why that disability should be service-connected. So veterans, something else you can probably think about doing from an educational standpoint in this non-adversarial aspect is the idea of taking advantage of that equal poise piece, that benefit of the doubt. Often you can find some evidence again yourself to at least get to that 50-50 line, if anything, in order to help carry you across that threshold with that benefit of the doubt rule. Maybe obtaining the competent medical evidence. I get veterans that'll come in and say, yeah, I got this condition, and one of the first questions I'm going to ask veterans is, where are you treated at? And they'll be like, well, I've never been treated. And that's fine. We can work with that in many cases, but just remember how much help you're providing to your own claim and helping the VA process your claim and grant your claim if you have that medical evidence. Credible AA evidence statements, buddy statements, your personal statements. Maybe you got a timeline of things. When I talk about the headaches, it's not uncommon to maybe keep a timeline on when those headaches occur and the symptoms, like a log. So you can definitely help yourself out here, veterans, as well. So I'm not here to beat one side up, and especially the VA, but I just want to go through a few things of what the system's supposed to be. It's supposed to be non-adversarial. There's so many rules and laws in place to make it non-adversarial, and in the end, it does feel very adversarial. But if we're going to fix the system and both come together and work with each other in a way that is non-adversarial, I can see where both sides can bring something to the table. And that's ultimately what I'm saying here, veterans. It's just things to consider. And VA, remember, check your attitude at the door. That's in the law, in so many words. No personal opinions. Make it non-adversarial. Help the veterans out. So this is my little spiel for adversarial and non-adversarial. I just really want to get the point across, veterans and VA, that the system's supposed to be non-adversarial. And if you want to, in my opinion, professional opinion, in my experience, if you really want to make the system truly non-adversarial, again, 100%, we definitely have to work towards helping each other out and remembering that we need to leave our own behaviors at the door and focus in on the facts and the rules and have these proper discussions. VA, I'm also here to do that. When I represent veterans, you see my name's in the file. If you're working a claim and you see that I am representing a veteran, if I'm available, I'll take the phone call. If you've got an evidentiary question or don't understand something that's been filed, or you're reading something and you're like, I got a question, it's okay. I don't know how many attorneys will do that, or other BSOs or agents, but speaking for myself, if I am available, I will sit and I will have a conversation with you. It's a conversation so that, again, we're being non-adversarial and we're in a setting that allows us to understand how we can help the veteran. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, VA. I am here to do that when I represent veterans, so that we can have a non-adversarial setup. All right, I may have got a little ranted and opinionated on that one, and I apologize if I did. But the big takeaway is, remember, the VA system is supposed to be non-adversarial. The mission is to help veterans and their families, their caregivers, not to deny them and get your paycheck and go home. So, non-adversarial system. Let's make it that way. Let's see if we can do better. Veterans, I'm also here for you. Don't forget VeteranLang.com if you need to talk about representation, possible representation. We will see what we can do for you. Get on my calendar there. I do in-person here in Arizona, and I do over the phone nationwide as a VA-accredited attorney. So I'm here to help both sides come together and make a better program. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.